you need to come up with something for me. It's late evening. The kind of peaceful night in a suburban area in which even the crickets sound anxious. You're inside your home, sipping coffee, thinking you've finally found peace in a neighborhood that promised safety, order, and calm. But then, all of a sudden, your door shakes, heavy fists pound against it, and voices shout that they are homeowners association police officers. Now let me ask you, what would you do if a stranger demanded to be arrested in your own home while posing as a badge? Because that's exactly what happened to me. And the worst part? They had no idea with whom they were interacting. I moved into this neighborhood 6 months ago. I thought it would be ordinary cookie-cutter houses, neatly trimmed lawns, and the occasional argument about where someone parked their car. The homeowners association appeared to be harmless at first. A few newsletters, some rules about trash bins and fence heights. But slowly I started to notice something off. People acted differently here. Not warm or friendly, more like watched. Whenever I walked down the street, I felt eyes on me behind curtains. The HOA president, a woman named Karen with sharp eyes and an even sharper voice, was everywhere, always patrolling, always reminding people of the rules. I brushed it off. I've dealt with worse. But then, the letters began to arrive. Not the normal "your grass is too long" kind of letters. These were intimate, threatening, written in red ink like warnings carved into paper. They weren't signed by the HOA. They were authorized by someone else, something that called itself the Enforcement Division. At first I laughed. Fake intimidation, amateur scare tactics. I make a living dealing with criminals. But then I noticed neighbors started disappearing, suddenly leaving without selling their homes. Families gone overnight. Their houses left dark and hollow. Karen also, she never elaborated on it. I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know how far it would go until the night the fake HOA police came for me. That evening, it was around 10:30 p.m. Even though no one in the neighborhood knew what exactly work meant to me, I was at my desk looking over some work-related documents. To them, I was just another quiet man who kept to himself. They didn't know I carried a badge that didn't belong to this subdivision, but to the federal government. Then came the knock. There was no knock, a pounding. My front door was struck 3 times with enough force to shake the wall's picture frames. Reaching for the gun I keep holstered in the desk drawer was my first thought, but I waited, listening. Through the door, a loud voice spoke, "Open up." I've worked with law enforcement across the country. I've taught agents, questioned cartel leaders, and witnessed undercover operations collapse in a matter of seconds. But never in my life had I heard of a homeowners association having its own police force. Another voice barked, "Open the door immediately. Under HOA Statute Regulation 16, failure to comply will result in arrest." Regulation 16 of the HOA statute? That was not allowed. Even that wasn't real. I walked silently to the peephole. In my yard, 3 figures were standing outside. Black uniforms, flashing red-blue lights from a beat-up SUV with a magnetic siren slapped on top. Their badges gleamed in the porch light, but even from behind the glass I could tell they were fake. Cheap metal, badly engraved, probably ordered online. They weren't cops, but they sure wanted me to believe they were. "Sir," someone yelled, "step outside right away. You are in violation of multiple HOA infractions. You are under arrest." I nearly laughed. Arrest? For what? Planting my flowers too close to the fence? But I didn't laugh, because I saw something else. The man closest to the door shifted his weight. A pistol that was holstered like a thug rather than a police officer was resting on the side of his hip as his hand brushed it. Too loose, too casual. The kind of grip you only see from someone who wants to show you they're armed. This wasn't about HOA rules. This was harassment. Control. I took a slow breath. My training started working. First thing, evaluate. Plan the second step. Step 3, execute. I called out through the door, steady and calm. Properly identify yourself. Badge numbers. Department. There was silence, then muffled laughter. "You listen to us. HOA Enforcement Division. We don't have to participate in your games." That laughter was not that of a police officer. Someone who thought they had already won laughed at it. I had 2 options. One is that I could act like the man they thought I was, a quiet homeowner without power or defense. I could let them drag me into whatever twisted game this neighborhood was hiding, open the door and comply. Or alternatively, I could point out to them that the man standing behind this door was not just another resident. They thought I was surrendering. They were mistaken. The door swung open with a slow groan, the kind of sound that makes the hair on the back of your neck rise. There they were, 3 of them. The embroidered logos on their black uniforms gave the impression of Halloween costumes more than authority. Up close, I could see the frayed stitching at the edges of the bold white letters that read enforcement across their chests. Cheap fabric. Sloppy work. The one in front, tall, broad shoulders, beard trimmed too neat to be natural, smirked at me. His hand hovered just above his weapon. Mister, he read my alias from a clipboard and said, Thompson, you're under arrest for repeated violations of HOA standards, including unauthorized property modifications, failure to comply with inspection notices, and suspicion of subversive activity within the neighborhood. Suspicion of subversive activity. I had never seen that one in any HOA handbook. I said nothing. I just studied them, eyes scanning every twitch, every nervous breath. Because beneath their swagger, I saw it. Hesitation. They were unfamiliar with this. They were unfamiliar with someone staring back at them fearlessly. Step outside now, the leader barked. Hands where I can see them. His two partners shifted, one flanking the porch steps, the other glancing nervously at the dark street. No neighbors peeked through windows, no lights were turned on. The entire block was silent, as if the whole neighborhood had already learned to stay out of it. That revealed everything to me. This wasn't their first visit. I casually leaned against the doorframe with my pistol concealed at my side. With the weight of someone who has spent years controlling a room full of dangerous men, my voice came out calm and measured. Interesting, I said. An amusing aspect of arrests. Real officers usually cite actual laws, not HOA standards. The smile on the leader's face slightly faltered. His eyes widened. He yelled, Don't play smart at her. We are not here to argue. But I saw it. That flicker of doubt. They anticipated fear. They got defiance. Do you see what I see? I continued, lowering my voice. In someone's garage, I see 3 uniformed men stitched together. I see fake lights fastened to a vehicle that wouldn't pass any inspection. I see badges you probably ordered from a website for $20. The man's jaw tightened. He had never been called out before. Last chance, he growled. Come along with us, or things will get ugly. And that's when I smiled. Not wide, just enough to get his attention. Just enough to allow him to sense the change in power. You really don't know who I am, do you? I said quietly. The night air grew heavier. His partners suddenly looked at each other in uncertainty. That was the first crack. He leaned closer, trying to reassert control, his breath hot with arrogance. Oh, I know exactly who you are. A homeowner who thinks the rules don't apply to him. A nobody. I let the silence linger, my gaze steady, my heartbeat calm. Then I whispered 4 words that turned the air electric. I work for them. He froze, his smirk vanished. For the first time, I saw fear flash across his eyes. Because in that moment, he realized I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't a nobody. I wasn't just another target in their fake authority game. I was capable of destroying their entire operation. The man in front of me froze. The words hung in the night air, heavier than the silence pressing down on the street. His lips parted, but no words came. His partner's hands twitched at their belts as they shifted uncomfortably. Their confidence, their whole performance was unraveling in front of me, thread by thread. He made an effort to recover, his voice slightly trembling. You're bluffing. If you were anyone important, you wouldn't be living here. I let out a slow breath, stepping forward so the porch light caught my face just enough to make my eyes glint. That's exactly what makes me dangerous. You don't see me coming. I pulled a slim black leather wallet from my back pocket. I didn't flash it too much. I did not have to. I opened it with calm precision, just enough for the metallic seal to catch the light. The effect was immediate. The partner's eyes grew wider. One retreated from the porch. Under his breath, the other said something. And the figurehead? His jaw clenched. His shoulders became stiffer. He was cornered, and he knew it. I said quietly, You have made a mistake. You played cops and robbers with the wrong man, I said. The silence that followed was unbearable. The SUV's fake siren light was only making a faint buzzing sound as it spun slowly, painting the houses red and blue. Finally, the leader barked out, desperate to keep control. Don't give in to him. He is false. He's just trying to scare us. However, there were holes. His voice didn't carry confidence anymore. Fear was in the air. I tilted my head, lowering my tone to something only he could hear. Then detain me. Go on. Let me in. Put your hands on me, and watch what happens next. He remained silent. I've observed men who believed they could never be touched for years. Cartel leaders, dealers in arms, traitors wearing the mask of patriots. When they realized that the ground beneath them wasn't as solid as they thought, they all gave it the same look. And now, This man, this self-declared HOA cop, wore that same expression. He had established his kingdom through fear, silence, and the pretense that his badge represented something. But the moment he stood on my porch, staring at the seal of federal authority in my hand, his castle crumbled, because he knew the truth at his core. This wasn't a game anymore. The leader's hand moved in the direction of his weapon. Not a confident move, an impulsive one. One of his partners murmured and shifted in panic. Man, let's just go. He doesn't deserve this. But the leader didn't back down, not yet. He was held in place by his pride. His whole authority, the little empire he had built, was crumbling in front of two frightened subordinates, and he knew if he turned and ran now, it was over. As a result, he stepped up his game. You think I'm scared by a badge? He snarled. Your rules don't apply to this neighborhood. It runs on ours. His words reverberated into the night, bouncing off of houses that were silent, where unseen neighbors listened but never dared to get involved. His voice was loud, but it trembled. He then unclipped his holster and let his gun shine in the porch light. An act so stupid it almost seemed unreal. My instincts sharpened instantly. Before he even considered aiming, my own weapon was already raised. One move from him, one wrong twitch, and this night would end in blood. Don't, I said firmly, voice like steel. And for a heartbeat, he froze, staring at the barrel of a man who wasn't afraid to pull the trigger. His partners stepped back further, panic flashing in their eyes. They did not agree to this. They signed up to frighten soccer moms and retirees, not to face a federal agent who would almost certainly be staring them down. A whisper broke the silence. The youngest of the men blurted it out, shaking his voice. Speak to him, man. Simply inform him. He must be aware. Fury pierced the leader's fear as he jerked his head back. Keep your mouth shut. However, the younger one continued. This isn't just us, okay? It's bigger. It includes all of them. The HOA, the board, everyone. You think this neighborhood's normal? You believe that people simply leave? They are not. They are driven out. My eyes narrowed, pushed out, just like the families I'd noticed vanishing overnight. I yelled a single command as the leader lunged at him in an effort to silence him. Freeze, he did, which surprised me. With rage written all over his face, his hands were in the air. It was finished. The power had changed hands. I stepped forward, gun still steady, voice cutting through the night. You operate a racket. You built a fake police force to scare families, to drive them out, maybe worse. But here's the thing. I leaned in closer, eyes locked on his. You chose the wrong house, I said, like a prisoner pleading for release. The younger man gave me a desperate look. His voice cracked. They forced us to do it. This isn't the only place. There's more neighborhoods, more of these divisions. You do not comprehend. It's everywhere. Everywhere. I was hit harder by the words than by any threat. This wasn't just one crooked HOA. This was a well-run network. The leader snarled and spewed poisonous words. You think you've won tonight? You don't even know what you've stepped into. The story does not end here. His arrogance returned for a flicker, like a dying flame gasping for air. But that was the problem with dying flames. One breath is enough to extinguish them. My voice became more icy than he could handle as I brought my weapon closer. Oh, it's over. And at the end, you're in handcuffs. At that precise instant, the night was finally punctured by the sound of real sirens. City cruisers racing down the street. Not a magnetic toy strapped to an SUV are the source of the blue and red lights. Backup. Real backup. And the look on his face watching those lights grow closer. That was the look on the man's face when he realized that his empire was just paper. At the curb, the genuine squad cars sped to a stop. Doors slammed. Flashlights cut through the darkness. Drop your weapon. Hands where we can see them. The self-proclaimed captain of the HOA Police, this man who had walked onto my porch with a false sense of authority, finally lost all control at that point. His pistol slipped from his hand and clattered against the wood. His eyes darted like a cornered animal, looking for an escape that no longer existed as he slowly raised his arms in defeat. The two with him dropped their weapons immediately, collapsing under the weight of the moment. They were not armed forces. They weren't even leaders. They were pawns. Additionally, pawns always fall first. As officers cuffed them, I watched his arrogance crumble into something almost pitiful. The neighbors, who had been silent in their dark houses, began to stir. The curtains moved, doors cracked open, faces peeked out, hesitant, afraid. They also saw what had been ruling them for the first time, exposed, handcuffed, and powerless. One of the neighbors whispered, I knew something was wrong. Another shook their head in disbelief. They had been silent out of fear. However, fear lasts only until the mask is ripped off. I stood there watching the scene, my badge still in my hand, and I thought about how many other neighborhoods were out there, how many families had been forced out, how many had suffered in silence while these cowards played at being lawmen. That night I learned something. Guns, badges, and titles are not always signs of power. Sometimes it comes from the illusion of authority, from convincing people they don't have a choice. However, the moment someone stands up and says no more, illusions are destroyed. These men had preyed on silence, after submission, on good people who are too afraid to respond. And it's possible that I didn't just happen to move into this neighborhood by accident. Maybe I was meant to be here for this. I stood in the silence of my living room after closing my door and hearing the squad car's sirens fade into the night. My heart was still steady, my weapon still warm in my hand. However, one thought stood out above the rest. This is not finished. There are additional masks waiting in the shadows for every one that is ripped off, and our silence is the only thing that keeps them in power. Let me conclude with this. If someone ever tries to intimidate you, to make you feel powerless in your own home, remember this story. Remember that real authority doesn't come from fake badges or empty threats. It comes from truth, from courage, and from refusing to back down. Now I've told you my story. However, I'd like to hear yours. Have you ever been in a situation where someone tried to control you and thought they were in control until you stood your ground? Post your tale in the comments section. I'll be reading, and if you found yourself holding your breath at any point in this story, please do me a favor and share this with someone who needs to be reminded that fear can only prevail if you allow it to. Because the scariest villains don't always appear in movies, they're the ones next door.